Is this a great game or what? Another edition for you on April Fools. And our guest today is Dallas Braden, who I think is the perfect guest for an April Fool's show, right?
Right. Dallas Braden pitched a perfect game in the major leagues. I worked with him at ESPN. He's one of the funniest, most irreverent people I've ever met. I promise you, he will make you laugh today because every time I see him, he makes me laugh.
He is such a great guy. He's a broadcaster now for the Oakland Athletics, where he spent a lot of his career as well. So we can't wait to get chatting with him. Dad, the first full weekend of the baseball season is behind us. We're recording this on Mondays, as we normally do. So we're usually going to miss those Monday night games. So any action that happened on Monday night might not make the podcast Tuesday morning release. But the first full weekend of the 2025 season is in the books.
And, Jeff, it was ridiculous.
Insane.
I've covered baseball for 45 years, and I don't remember an opening weekend that can top this one.
Really?
Right. For crazy things that happened, okay? And it's almost like the whole first weekend was an April Fool's joke because there's no way this stuff can happen. For instance, right now, through the weekend, Ryan Nelson, a pitcher for the Diamondbacks, has more hits this season, one, than Luis Ariz of the Padres, who is 0 for 13 and has won the last 3 batting titles. But a pitcher, and the pitchers don't hit anymore, but he was forced into a game on Sunday to hit. He got a hit, drove in a run in a huge 8th inning that led the Diamondbacks to a victory. I mean, seriously, what are the chances? Look, Ryan Nelson was a two-way player in college. He knows how to hit, but he'd never taken a major league at bat in a game. He took it during an era where we don't bat anymore with the pitcher, and he got a hit. He got a hit before Luis Ariz did. And the other thing is, I did the game, of course, on Saturday, which we'll get to quite a bit, the famous Yankee game in which they hit 9 homers against the Brewers. And Jake Bauers pitched in that game. And then he pitched in the second game. So Jake Bauers of the Brewers, a first baseman, is tied for the most appearances by anyone on the Milwaukee pitching staff, and we're 3 games into the season. And he pitched 2 innings and didn't give up a run. I mean, what are the chances of that? It's absolutely impossible. And the third thing, Rafael Devers of the Red Sox, an elite major league hitter, struck out 12 times in the first 4 games of the season. So he has as many strikeouts, 12, as Yogi Berra had during the entire 1950 season.
No.
Yogi Berra in 1950 had 12 strikeouts and hit 28 homers. And Rafael Devers, again, an elite player, has as many strikeouts through 4 games as Yogi Berra had the entire season.
That just, I mean, I know the pitching is different, and people are going to say the pitching is different now, Tim, but that is unbelievable.
Right.
3 versus 162 in theory. That's
Jeff,
crazy.
What's more unbelievable than that are just all the firsts that happened the first weekend of the season. You know, my favorite sentence in baseball is, for the first time in Major League history. And it happened like 10 times over the weekend. Now, we've been over the Austin Wells, first catcher in Major League history to lead off on opening day and hit a home run as a leadoff hitter on opening day. That never happened before. Of course, the next game, the Yankees became the first team in history to get first 3 batters of the game all homered on the first pitch. Paul Goldschmidt, and then Cody Bellinger, and then Aaron Judge. And then, of course, the Yankees became the first team in Major League history to hit 7 homers through the first 3 games of a season. So, Jeff, I was certain that the Yankees were going to hit 10 home runs that game. They hit 9. And remember, there's only been 1 game in Major League history in which a team hit 10 home runs. That was the Blue Jays on September 14th, 1987 against the Orioles. And who do you think covered that game? Me. I said on the air, this is going to be the greatest day of my life, because if they hit 10 home runs, there will be 2 10-homer games ever, and I will have been at both of them. And I'm pretty sure I would have been the only one on the face of the earth who was at both of those games. So they only hit 9, but it was still an amazing day for the Yankees. That was another first. The Yankees also hit 15 home runs in their first 3 games, which tied the 2006 Tigers as the only team ever to hit 15 homers in their first 3 games.
You know, Dad, and they're using those. Well, Aaron Judge isn't, for the record, but using these torpedo bats.
Right.
And, I mean, we have some set pieces on our set. Do you think it looks anything like this old bat?
No, it looks looks like the bat that you used when you played. Right. Never mind.
Was that why I was so terrible?
No, you weren't so terrible. Stop it. We're not going to have that.
I was a good defender.
I know. Stop. All right, we're going to talk about the bats in a minute. We have a few more first here. So Cameron Miser of the Tampa Bay Rays became the first player ever to hit his first major league home run, and it was a walk-off home run on opening day. That has never happened, and of course it christened Steinbrenner Field the first regular season game ever played in that minor league ballpark. I mean, you could not have asked for anything better than that. And your team, the Phillies, they, as you know, they beat the Nationals on opening day, and they struck out 19 times. So they are the first team, hence the word first has been used a lot, first team in Major League history to strike out 19 times on opening day and win the game, which is just insane to me. And Devers, who we mentioned, struck out 12 times in 4 games. No one. He is the first player in Major League history to strike out 12 times in the first 4 games of a season. And I repeat, he's a really good player.
They're great. He's on a Hall of Fame track you can make an argument for.
All right. So a couple other takeaways here, Jeff, from the first weekend. Sandy Alcantara pitched for the Marlins, coming back from Tommy John surgery, and was absolutely stunningly good. And just keep in mind, I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to be traded because they're in a rebuilding mode. He can bring back a haul. They need a bunch of young pitchers. So keep an eye on that. And Jacob deGrom pitched on Sunday for the Rangers and pitched 5 scoreless, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, and was 73 pitches, 49 strikes. This is really his first. He pitched last year, but this is really him getting going again, and he was awfully good. That is a really, really good sign. I was also taken by the whole leadoff thing, Jeff. Like when you were in Little League, you were the littlest guy on the team, and you were probably the fastest guy on the team. Yeah. So we hit you leadoff because you might get on base. You know, you can run.
Get hit by a pitch. Right. That happened a lot.
Right. But I'm struck now by how things have changed because the Yankees hit a catcher, Austin Wells, leadoff on opening day. The first time any Yankee catcher has ever hit leadoff on opening day. The next game, Paul Goldschmidt, who had never hit leadoff in any game in his major league career, he hit leadoff, and they both hit a home run. I mean, so the point is, the leadoff hitters used to be the pixie little second baseman who could run a little bit. It doesn't work that way anymore. Now, Shohei Ohtani hits leadoff. I mean, we've been talking about this for 10 years. It just keeps growing and growing.
Kyle Schwarber hits leadoff.
Right, of course.
The guy can barely make it to second on an outfield hit.
Right, that's the point. But I asked Aaron Boone, I did the game on Saturday, and Boone just looked at me and he goes, look, things have changed. Those 2 guys can rake. They can hit. That's why we want them at the top. And that's just part of the changes in the game. So also, the Brewers have a second baseman named Bryce Terang, who everybody knows because he was the Platinum Defensive winner last year. He won the Gold Glove at second base, but the Platinum Gold Glove goes to the best defensive player in the league, and he won it for the National League. I watched him take infield the other day, and you know how much I love infield play. You know how much I love middle infield play. I can't take my eyes off it. I watched him take ground balls, and it was absolutely breathtaking to watch him take ground balls. So what I found out, though, is that Jason Lane, who's one of the coaches for the Brewers, hits him infield every day, and he hits the ball as hard as he can to Bryce Terang because that's what Bryce Terang wants. No second baseman goes to his left better than him. No second baseman goes to his right better than him. And it's in part because Jason Lane has helped him do this by hitting it so hard to him, preparing him for the game. So Jason Lane showed me the glove that Bryce Terang gave him the other day, and it's a platinum glove. and it says platinum winner, and it says thank you Lane on it. So Bryce Terang had a special glove made for one of his coaches. How great is that?
That is really special because at the end of the day, we forget that these coaches are the ones. This is why Major League Baseball is so hard. You don't just get drafted and start playing Major League Baseball. You go up through the minors. You have coaches. You have people helping you get better so you can face against these pitchers. So that's really neat.
All right, so let me see the bat again, the torpedo bat that you're talking about.
Okay, well, this isn't a good example of the torpedo bat. In fact, we have a friendship with the guys at Victus Sports, right? And I was going to reach out to them and see if they made the torpedo bat, but I think it was it Marucci who made these bats, right?
Look, several bat companies are making these bats. Now, Jeff, it's important to note that what is happening now with these new bats is perfectly legal as long as you stay within all the specifications of the bat. It can't be more than 42 inches long, and the barrel, or whatever we're going to call the circumference, can't be more than 2.61 inches. So as long as you're that, you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to try to show you what's happened.
Yeah.
For instance, so Anthony Volpe of the Yankees, he hits a lot of balls. Sometimes he has trouble with the hard stuff in, and he'll hit a ball like right here, and it may not break his bat, but this is not the strongest part of the bat. So what these people have done is move some of the barrel down to here. So when he does have trouble on that ball hard on the inside part of the plate and it hits here, he's got more mass to which to hit it. And therefore, and he's hit 2 home runs already so far. So the Yankees, trust me, are not cheating. I was told that some players were using a similar bat last year. Other teams are already using it this year. And a bunch of teams have already ordered bats like this. There's nothing wrong with doing this. And given that the hitters for the most part are totally overmatched today. I mean, look at all the strikeouts that we've already talked about. I mean, poor Dylan Cruz, young guy for the Nationals, just had an 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. That's the second 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts this year alone. And then he followed it up with an 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. So he struck out in 8 consecutive at-bats.
Dylan Cruz, I think he looks like Bryce Harper's evil twin brother. You ever see the two of them?
Yeah.
I think they look alike. Am I crazy here in seeing it?
I don't think he's evil because he's...
Well, just because he's the darker hair and in an alternate universe.
So the point is... anything that the hitters can use to give their advantage, I'm okay with that because if it's legal, then they should be doing that. And by the way, Aaron Judge, who hit 4 homers in the first 3 games, no Yankee has ever hit 4 homers in the first 3 games.
Unbelievable.
He doesn't use the torpedo bat. So not everyone's using it, but the guys who do use it when they hit it out of the ballpark, they're coming under some scrutiny now. I'm also here to tell you, Jeff, I covered that game on Saturday. The Brewers used 2 different pitchers who were making their major league debut.
Oh, that's
God
tough.
bless them. And the ball was, the wind was blowing out. I mean, a lot of guys were going deep that day, and it wasn't because of the bats. It was because there were some Brewer pitchers. Their whole pitching staff is all banged up. And by the way, Jeff, I really thought this was going to happen. I thought we were going to get an 11-homer game because they hit 7 in the first 3 innings. And I also thought that Aaron Judge was going to become the first player ever to hit 4 homers in a game, but it was the home run cycle. Solo, 2-run homer, 3-run homer, grand slam. The only thing he didn't hit was a 3-run homer. There have been 18 4-homer games in Major League history, and not once have we had the home run cycle. So I said on the air, if this happens, if the 11th homer hit in this game is Aaron Judge's 4th homer and it completes the home run cycle, I'm going to have to retire immediately. Because, seriously, what could possibly top that?
So is it true that I think I read that an MIT professor, engineer, and physics guy is the one who kind of created this torpedo bat?
Yes.
And just for every Boston Red Sox fan out there, I just want to say, I'm so sorry. Could you imagine an MIT guy makes these bats for the Yankees to hit all these homers?
And where did your grandfather, Pop, go to undergrad?
Pop went to MIT.
And he would have been the kind of guy, he's not a designer, but he was a scientist, he was a mathematician. He was someone that could have explained how you take wood from the barrel and move it somewhere else to make you a better hitter.
Can we just talk about how your dad went to MIT, your brother went to MIT? What happened to us? You and I barely made it into our schools.
No, I made it easily into the University of Maryland. If I went there today, I wouldn't have made it in easily. I can promise you that. Finally, Jeff, final takeaway, speaking of fathers and sons.
Yeah.
So Sunday, Jeff Conine, arguably the greatest player in the history of the Marlins, goes into the Marlins Hall of Fame. And they give him a big jacket, and there's a big ceremony on the field. And his son, Griffin Conine, plays for the Marlins.
So cool.
And on Sunday, the day that his dad was inducted into the Marlins Hall of Fame, Griffin Conine hit a home run. And by the way, the Marlins won 3 out of 4 games in the weekend, all on walk-offs. So they're one of 4 teams in the history of baseball, including the 1901 Tigers. In their first 4 games of the season, 3 of them were won on walk-offs. That's how unusual. The whole weekend was like a Quirkjian. It was unbelievable.
So let's get into them. And I'm so glad they're back.
Right.
We couldn't do this during the offseason.
Right. They're my favorite things. And I've told you, Jeff, I just told you, the weekend was like a gigantic Quirkjian all by itself. There must have been 50 things that I could have used. And the game I covered on Saturday, broadcast on Saturday, was a 9-inning Quirkjian. I mean, so many things happened there that just made you slap your head. For instance, in that game, the Yankees won by 11 runs, and they made 5 errors in the game. So I called Frank at the Elias and said, Frank, come on, when's the last time a team won a game by at least 10 runs and made 5 errors in the game? So only one game in the last 70 years did that happen. That was in 2014. The Twins beat the Tigers 21-7 while making 5 errors. I mean, that's almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
So it's the second time in the last 70 years that's happened. Now, I also told you about the game that the Phillies played. Your team struck out 19 times and won on opening day. The only team ever to win an opening day game striking out 19 times. The same day, the Giants beat the Reds, and the Giants struck out 17 times. So there have been 4 instances in baseball history, all within the last 15 years, in which a team struck out at least 17 times on opening day and won the game. And 2 of them happened last Thursday on the same day. Again, you can't make this stuff up. It's so beautiful. All right, so I told you about Jake Bauers, and I thought this is impossible. When's the last time a position player pitched in back-to-back games? Because he did against the Yankees. Well, as it turned out, Zach McKinstry of the Tigers did it last year, which just shows you again, Jeff, this is one of the trends in baseball. We're not going to get our pitchers hurt, and we use position players to pitch now more than ever. And I'm sorry, we're doing it too often. Yeah. It used to be like the coolest thing. Every 6 months, a position player would pitch. Now it happens 3 times a week. Jake Bauers pitched in back-to-back games. And this early in the season, I promise you, that's never happened before. Also in that Yankee game, the first 3 innings, this was the line score for the Yankees, 4-3-6. Now, what do I do with line scores? What am I looking for?
It's an area code there.
It is. So that's Northern Ohio area code. Oh. And then the rest of the line score from the Yankees formed an exact phone number, 436-302-2020. Now, this morning, I called that phone number, and thankfully it was out of order, but it looks exactly like a phone number, and it happened the first Saturday of the season.
That's pretty, I mean, I knew you were going to call it. And actually, last year, there was another box score line that was a number, and you didn't want to say what it was because it was somebody's number.
Called, I called and I got a recording, and I just couldn't leave a message. I did it one other time in my life, and someone picked up, and I had to hang up immediately. It was so awful, so intrusive. And someone might say, "Why are you calling me?" And I would say, "Well, your phone number was the line score at a baseball game last night." I'm not sure that's going to work. And last thing for you, Jeff, since you love music, you do music every morning. In Philadelphia, Music Talk. Monday, we had a Rangers against the Reds game, and Kumar Rocker pitched against Brady Singer.
Rocker and singer.
So you know how I collect, starting pitchers, Matt Cain faced Ivan Nova, so we had the Nova-Cain matchup. Yep. We've had a Diamond-Sale matchup. We've had a Abbott and Castillo matchup. Yep. We've had a Mason-Dixon matchup. Well, I kind of like this one. We had a rocker-singer matchup.
That's perfect.
Right. So this all happened like in the first 5 days of the season.
On this date in baseball history, what do you have?
Okay. Let's see. In 1939, Phil Nierko was born. All right. Phil Nierko's a Hall of Famer, knuckleball pitcher, one of the more underrated pitchers ever. So on the final day of the 1985 season, he's pitching for the Yankees, and he's going for his 300th win. And they're playing the Blue Jays, who had clinched the division the day before. So the Sunday game really didn't mean anything. And if Phil once told me, and all the Blue Jays were hung over for the game. So now he's going to try to win his 300th game. But the night before the game, he and his brother Joe have a conversation about Phil's pitching the next day. And Phil says, Joe, I want you to pitch in the game in relief for me. So when we look at my 300th win, my brother is going to pitch in the same game as I did when I won my 300th game, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. Cool. So it's the ninth inning of the game, and Joe Nierko, not the pitching coach, not the manager, runs out to the mound to talk to his brother, who's got a shutout going on opening day and is going to win his 300th game, okay? So Phil says, Joe, why aren't you coming in the game? We discussed this. I want you to pitch in this game. And Joe looks at his older brother and says, if you pitch a shutout, you will be the oldest pitcher ever to pitch a shutout in Major League history. So Phil goes, well, get the hell out of here then. Let me do this. So Phil gets in trouble in the bottom of the ninth. He's still going to win the game. And he hasn't thrown a knuckleball the whole game because he wanted to show everybody that I can pitch without a knuckleball. Yeah. So he didn't throw one knuckleball the whole game until the final batter, who was Jeff Burroughs, who was a former teammate of his in Atlanta. And there was a question whether they should pitch to Jeff Burroughs or walk him and get to the next guy in now the tricky ninth inning. And Jeff Burroughs looks at Phil Nierko, his former teammate, and says, pitch to me. That's what he said. Phil Nierko then threw the only knuckleball that he threw in the entire game. It was about this far outside. Jeff Burroughs swung at it, struck out, and Phil Nierko had the shutout, the oldest man ever to pitch a shutout.
Some things are bigger than baseball. That's so cool. It's a pitch to me. I love that.
Pitch to me. Phil Nierko, and by the way, Joe and Phil Nierko both now passed on, but they were two wonderful men. And Joe Nierko batted like 1,200 times in the major leagues. He hit one home run in his career, and it came off his brother.
No.
Phil.
Oh, that's amazing.
Again, the Quirkjians, they all line up. Baseball is just predisposed to these crazy things that happen. And if you watch closely enough, these things happen all the time, and you just go like this.
Talk about brothers. Sarah Lang's stat here from a couple years ago. I love the story. Aaron Nola's 2 fastest pitches he's ever thrown in the StatCast era were against Austin Nola, his brother.
Of course.
Because he's throwing hard.
Right.
I love that.
Right. And also born on this date, the late Rusty Staub. Rusty Staub was a really, really good player. The first 2 players in Major League history to hit a home run as a teenager and a homer as a 40-year-old were Ty Cobb and Rusty Staub, which I just love the rhyme there. And a Hall of Famer, Rusty Staub was a really good hitter. And when he played for Montreal, Gene Mauch was his manager, and Rusty's a really young player. And Gene Mauch said, I knew he had Boku power before I even knew what the word Boku meant.
Oh, my gosh.
That was typical Gene Mauch. And Rusty Staub was also like a master chef. He was like a great cook. And I didn't know this till recently. Occasionally, he would take pots and pans with him on road trips in his luggage, and he would cook like in his room or wherever he was. He would take his own pots and pans on the road. Rusty Staub was a really good Major League player for a really long time and one of my favorite people that I've ever met.
And now we have Dallas Braden on the show.
Right, and again, I've known Dallas Braden for a long time. Yeah. He worked at ESPN with us. I did Baseball Tonights with him. I worked with him in the booth. He's one of my favorite people ever, and he's really, really funny, and he just doesn't care. Like, he can laugh about everything, and he's going to make us laugh today.
We're going to ask him about Reptile World, about my dad's dancing, and, of course, about his perfect game, and about how the Athletics are adjusting in Sacramento. All of that and so much more is next with Dallas Braden on Is This a Great Game or What?
Okay, Dallas is ready. Jeff, you ready?
We're rolling. Yeah,
okay, in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Is This a Great Game or What? And our guest this week is my dear friend, Dallas Braden, a former teammate of mine at ESPN. We went to Williamsport together. We did games from the booth together. Good major league pitcher, threw a perfect game, and might be the greatest softball player ever to play in the ESPN softball league. Dallas, this is my son, Jeff.
Hefe, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you, boys.
Dallas, couple weeks ago, Dad and I are having a couple glasses of wine, watching March Madness in the basement. I was visiting him, and he goes, we need a guest. We need a guest for April Fool's Day. Think, Jeff, think. And without hesitation, I said Dallas Braden, and it's a compliment.
Yeah, Who's the biggest fool we can get to sit out with us? I read right through it, Timmy, right through it. He was tiptoeing around it. Well, it's not going to be March 31st, and it's not going to be on April 2nd, but it's somewhere in the middle there, if you could. Oh, April Fools, Timmy, April Fools.
So, Dallas, this is your bobblehead, of course, and I'm not making this up. On one of the shelves in my office, the bobblehead shelf, there are three bobbleheads in order. Number one is me. Of course, mine is actual size. Number two is Walter Johnson, the greatest pitcher of all time, which, of course, I went to his high school. I went to Walter Johnson High School. And number three is Dallas Braden, who did what Walter Johnson never did, and that was throw a perfect game in the major leagues. How about that lineup, Dallas?
Let's go. Timmy, the big train, and me? I think you need to find a different train station to park my bobblehead at. Walter is going to have a word with you at some point in time, Timmy. Some point in time, Walter's going to have something to say about it, but I am truly humbled and truly honored to have even made the shelf, my friend.
Right. It's so good. So everything going okay with you?
Everything's great. Everything's great. The A's have gotten off to a pretty good start, considering who we just had to deal with up in Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. That was fun to watch. Baseball season's going. We've already got a little controversy stewing within the game of baseball with the torpedo bats. So I couldn't be happier that baseball is back and in full swing. We're ratcheting it up. We got 3 shows a week on our podcast. You guys are rocking and rolling now, which means baseball is here. So yes, I am absolutely pumped.
Now, Dallas, I want to look back to your time with my dad as a broadcaster with ESPN, because if I'm not mistaken, you were on the Baseball Tonight episode that I was tasked with getting a video of my dad dancing at a wedding. No.
Yes.
Were you not? You were an analyst, right? Yes, am I wrong in remembering this?
Oh, no, you are spot on, Jeff. Spot on. Spot on.
It wasn't just Dallas. It was Dallas and Alex Cora, who won a World Series as the manager of the of the Red Sox. And here you ambushed me on the air, and he was standing right next to me, the last guy that should have been there.
Incredible moves. Incredible moves, by the way. I'm not sure if you were going to be able to zoom out, though, because if you saw the feet, there were sparks flying. It was an absolute electric factory. Timmy was cutting rugs, my man.
Dallas, as I've said many times, the worst adult male dancer ever is me. I'm more wooden than Pinocchio. It was terrible. And the way that Ravi and Alex and Dallas crushed me, and deservedly so, and I didn't see it coming. And you're the one that ambushed me on that.
Yeah, I did. And, when the producers of ESPN text you, and you're always having fun on your broadcast with the Athletics, and I got to talk about that here in a minute, you do it. The fun of the game is having these moments with these former players and with your dance moves and whatever it might be. Like, that's the fun of what we get to do.
You are absolutely right. And Jeff, you know this because you grew up with this man. You grew up with this man leading the charge for you. And so when I met Timmy, when I met you, I'm going to talk about you like you're not here for a minute. Jeff, when I met your dad, it became instantly noticeable that the love for the game, but not the love for the game, the love for the people who make the game what it is. That is what Tim has tapped into. That is what your dad has continually tapped into over the decades and decades of impeccable performance in his line of work. And when you have somebody like that that you get to work with and you get to work next to, they show you how to love the game in a different way, and they show you how to love more than just the game. They really show you and teach you how to fall in love with the stories that make the game what it is. So when you can find the romance in the sport, you've been led to figure out how to find those moments and how to find those things that are going to get you to latch onto it. And I couldn't have landed in a better spot at ESPN with your dad, my rookie year on this side of the ball, than showing me this is how you do it, man. This is what you latch on to. You latch on to sack flies. You latch on to people that get excited about sack flies. And we both have one of those dudes in our life.
Well, thank you, Dallas. One of my favorite stories was when we did the Little League World Series together. And Dallas decided to go to Clyde Peeler's Reptile World. Tell us what happened that day in Williamsport.
Oh, my God. Oh, what an abomination that was. Well, you said it, Timmy. I'm a little bit of a weirdo, so if I got some time to myself, yeah, you got reptiles. You got a whole room of reptiles. I want to check it out. You got alligators out in the middle of nowhere. I'm in. So I went out to Clyde Peeler's Reptile Land and had a great time. Thoroughly enjoyed myself, and then realized, you know what, the clock's ticking. I got to get back. We've got a job to do. I figured I'd go call an Uber. Right? Call an Uber. So I walk up to the folks and I go, hey, you guys have Uber out here? And they looked at me and go, who's Uber? And I said, oh, no. This is not who is Uber. This is not good. So I instantly start to see the clock just spinning, right? We're just getting closer and closer to game time now because they don't even know who Uber is. So I'm like, hey, is there somebody else I could speak to? I don't want to be rude, but I just wanted to be like, so you don't know. I need to talk to somebody who does know. Is there? And eventually I'm just in the middle of Clyde Peeler's Reptile Land lobby going, does anybody know where I can get an Uber? I need a ride out of here. That's what an Uber is. It's a ride. Can you help me get a ride? And the answer, the short, very quick answer was, buddy, we don't know what Uber is. That doesn't come out. I don't know if we're ever going to get that out here, so you're better off calling a taxi cab. So at that point, I am stranded for 3 hours at Clyde Peeler's Reptile Land, just trying to figure out how I'm going to get back to Williamsport to call Little League Baseball. Yeah, quite an adventure. But the alligators, great scene.
This is what makes you one of those broadcasters that I love. And I remember back when maybe I think I've got this right too. You and my dad were doing a game at Wrigley Field.
Okay.
And my dad pulled out a quote of one of our favorite iconically stupid movies, in my opinion, even though we love it, is Napoleon Dynamite.
Sure.
Do you remember which quote my dad decided to pull out on a game broadcast when you two get together? It's dangerously stupid, and I mean that as a compliment.
No, refresh me, because we've had many moments like this.
Right. Well, I in the regular conversation, I brought up Uncle Rico saying I could throw a football over that mountain, and I'm telling you, Jeff, Dallas laughed so loud because he wasn't ready for this. He had to get out of his seat and literally leave the press box because we're on the air. He couldn't even speak. He was laughing so loud, and just the reference of Uncle Rico.
Well, because you are, I mean, look, for the folks who know you, you're up on game a little bit. You get the pop culture, you get it. You were the last dude who was supposed to be saying something like that, especially at that time. If one of us, as we found out, Timmy, if one of us is going to be doing or saying something dumb that's going to get us fired, it's probably going to be me. It's not going to be you. So for you to drop the Uncle Rico line, like in a completely professional, sanctioned environment, I'm going, What is Tim been drinking right now? And if so, why was I not invited? But what the hell is going on here? Did he just drop Uncle Rico on me? Yes, he did.
Well, Dallas, on Instagram, your wife, Meg, posted on opening day an amazing cut of all of her favorite moments from your A's broadcasting from last season, right?
Yes.
And I told, we're prepping, Dad and I are having lunch right before this interview. And I said, Dad, I have to show you this because I know you're not on Instagram. I know you didn't see it. And I take it and I said, look how creative this wife put this together. How great is this? He didn't understand a single Taylor Swift reference or Meghan Trainor lyric. And here I am, Dallas, there is nothing more vulnerable in life than putting yourself out there to show somebody a video. And you know what I mean? Get their reaction.
Nothing back.
Not even. And I'm like, Christina Aguilera, Dad? Meghan Trainor?
Taylor Swift?
Nothing, Timmy. Nothing.
Look, you just said I'm pretty up on pop culture. I'm not up at all. And I didn't realize how clever all this stuff was because everyone was a musical reference and I didn't get any of them.
I think he got Journey. I think that was all he got.
Don't stop believing.
There was that. Don't stop believing. But I'll tell you, on the third Taylor Swift reference, my dad was out at that point because we weren't able to connect with that one.
He didn't get it. I hope someone can explain the context of some of those to you because there was one clip, like my favorite one is about Altuve, who it's I use the reference little old me is part of the song lyric, and I tried to do my job and preserve that for the right moment. So I figured Altuve, great player, superstar player. If I can drop a little old me on somebody and it's going to fit and it's not really going to ruffle any feathers, Altuve's the perfect guy. And so I was able to work that in right at the right time. Another guy hit a ball to the warning track, and I said, well, you can find him tomorrow down bad crying at the gym because, probably a couple more push-ups and maybe that one goes over the wall. But my wife definitely led me down that path. I had no idea what I was getting into. And then apparently after the first day, she said, dude, the feedback is too solid. We're going to have to keep doing this. I was like, I am not your puppet, but apparently I am.
Well, you should be, Dallas, because she makes you look like a pile of inner tubes. You are the captain of the all-overachiever team. She is way better looking than you are.
Oh, Timmy, you are not telling me anything I don't know, my friend. Trust me. If I could if I could bottle up whatever it was that I had working that night, the night I met her, my life would be completely different, but it wouldn't be any better because I might not have her in it. So without her, all this is impossible.
All right, well, back to musical references. This is way off the topic, but many years ago, a young writer at the Boston Globe wrote about a college hockey team that was going back to Russia to play another game. And his lead to his story was back in the USSR. And the editor changed it to back in Russia. He didn't even get
it.
He didn't even understand. Even I understood. That's one of the great lyrics ever. And he changed it to back in Russia. He should have been fired immediately.
Yeah, somebody needs to be editoring the editor. How do we got to editor the editor? Edit him. Get him out of there.
Yeah,
good
Dallas,
Lord.
I went to Syracuse, renowned journalism program. Now I'm a country music morning show host. And I host this podcast with my dad. So I'm a radio host telling jokes and having fun. And then I do this on the side. And my sophomore year, we took a very serious news writing class. And I did this big story about an older woman who was caught peddling prescription drugs in DeWitt, New York, which is a small suburb outside Syracuse. So I made my headline, peddling prescription drugs. Don't do it.
That's fantastic.
And the teacher looked at me and said, Jeff, I don't think you're cut out for hard news. But I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic.
It was absolutely gold. And where they went wrong is not immediately sending that to the back page editor for the Post, right? Like, how do we not have this guy in the building yesterday after this? Somebody needs to do it, right?
All right. Well, speaking of the spectacular, I'm not exaggerating. My highlight of all my years at ESPN was when Dallas Braden went down into the stands out of the booth at a game in
God.
Pittsburgh. Now if you don't tell us, I'm going to tell the story. Tell us what happened.
So this was as we found out, this was my last broadcast on ESPN. But the game was, as we referred to it in the business, the game was a pig. It was not great. The weather was not great. And we wanted, in true fashion, we wanted to have some fun. We wanted to liven it up. Our director, producer at the time, very, very same mindset. They're just a fun loving dude. And he said, "Hey, you want to go out into the stands and run around?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I absolutely do." So I made my way out. I have no idea what's going on. I'm in Pittsburgh, right? Like, nobody knows me. Nobody knows who I so I'm just walking around out there. I'm in a 3-piece suit in the pouring rain. I've got hair that looks like it belongs on some poor mannequin. And the renegades of the Rotunda, the fine group of Pirate fans who have stationed themselves over at the Rotunda and left field, invited me over into the fold, and they've got flags waving, they got everything going. And I walk up there, and I got the beard, not looking anything like it does now, but they said, "Hey, you want to wear a hat?" Said, "Yeah, I want to wear a hat." Said, "How about a patch? You want a patch?" Said, "Absolutely, I want a patch. What else you got for me? How about the flag?" Said, "Give me that damn flag. Let's go. Where are we going?" They said, "Well, I don't know. You do whatever you want. We just gave you everything that we have. What are you going to do?" So I said, "I know what I'll do." I just started running around the ramp of the Rotunda, running around the concourse up there with this big pirate flag, waving it around and just being a fool, just trying to have a good time. And obviously we put that on camera. The feedback internally, when I say internally, I mean the feedback amongst Tim, myself, Ravi, and the director, and Eduardo. We loved it. We thought it was great. Now, Jeff, I can tell you unequivocally that some of the decision makers may or may not have had a different feel at the time for how that actually went. And I was shortly after relieved of my game calling and ESPN duties altogether. They're like, "Hey, so we're actually going to take you out of the booth, and we're not done there. We're going to take you off the air, and we're not done there. If there's anything that you had at the Coliseum, or there's anything that you had at campus, we've burned that. That's gone too. So if you're at home, Dallas, you know what? Just stay right there and never come back to Connecticut again." And I was like, "Thanks for the opportunity, man. Can I get that tape by any chance?"
Oh my God.
But Dallas, those guys you were hanging with, you're still friends with them, is that right?
Oh, these are some of the dearest friends I have now in baseball. We communicate, we text, we DM. When I'm out in Pittsburgh, I make sure I stop and have a beer, because we go over right across the street from the ballpark where a lot of the fans go. So I just make my walk from the ballpark, walk over there. I know they're going to be there, and we hang out, chop it up, and have some conversations. And just because I enjoy connecting with those fans, because those are the types of fans, to me, when we talk about loving this game, and Jeff, we talk about having fun in this game, the fans are the ones who drive this thing. And I think if you ever lose sight of that, even for just a minute, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. You're not tuned into the game the way I think you should be. So to appreciate the fans, I think it's our job, it's our responsibility, it's a duty that I take very seriously. And I thank them for allowing somebody that they had no idea who to say, "Yeah, you want to have some fun, man? We'll have some fun with you." And now here we are years later, friends, and I will be lifelong friends with them because they love the game just the way that we do.
Right, and Dallas is still lifelong friends with some people from ESPN, because while he was there, as I told you, he played at least one game that I saw in the ESPN softball league, and it's a very competitive league. I think he played for the research team, which was called Research and Destroy. That was, but Dallas, don't be humble here. I remember watching the game. You had like 5 at-bats. You had 5 home runs. I mean,
yeah.
What was that like? Former big league pitcher who came in and was just by far the best player on the field.
Well, I tell you, I was pissed, and I'll tell you why, Timmy. It's because it should have been 6 homers, but Fish was umpiring, and he hosed me, called it foul. I said, how do you know it's 500 feet away from you? What do you mean foul? You lost it at 350 when it sailed into the backyard of the house 3 streets over. What do you mean foul? So 5 for 5 was great. Did I have more in the tank? Absolutely. Was I robbed? You bet. But it was just my way of going out there and say, hey, look, you nerds can find all these stats and stuff quicker than I can even turn my computer on. So this is how I have to remind you that I am important too. In my own little world, I can get the job done too. So
pitchers can rake.
Oh, buddy, Jeff, can we? Can
Right.
we?
Right. Dallas, I was telling Jeff, every time a pitcher makes a good play defensively in a game, what do you always say without hesitation?
Athlete. Jeff, you know why? I don't know. I mean, you're with the historian here. You grew up with the historian. I don't know if you know this. Do you know why the mound is in the middle of the diamond, Jeff?
No.
It's because pitchers are the center of the universe.
I love that. And he believes that. And that, not to get into something hot takes anyway, Alex Rodriguez ran across his mound during a game after making an out. He ran across the pitcher's mound. And you were pissed, right?
Not happy about it, Timmy. Not happy about it. Very, very briefly, very quickly. I'll tell you, Jeff, it was a ball game at the Coliseum in Oakland, day game. A-Rod is on first base. I probably got squeezed and hosed out of a strike 3 call, and he probably got the Hall of Fame love and got the walk. So that's how he ended up on first. Robinson Cano was at the plate. Robbie fouled a ball off down the third base line. A-Rod, for like the first time in his career, was thinking about going first to third. So he, false hustled all the way over to third and foul ball. And then because he's lazy, tried to just walk back over the mound, and I'm walking up the mound as he's walking over the mound, and I see his foot like near the rubber. That's how close we are. I got the horse blinders on. I'm not looking, I can't see anything except for what's right in front of me, and he happened to be right in front of me at the time. So I look up, had some very choice words for him, and he didn't really understand what I was saying. He gets over to first base. He asks Derek Barton at the time, hey, is he yelling at me? Like, and Barton goes, he's a weirdo. He talks to himself all the time. Like that's not meant for you. But at the moment, it was absolutely meant for him.
Right.
And so ground ball, double play, gets rolled up, and I just start walking out, and I'm yelling. And he's standing there. He's still looking at me like, what are you talking to me? And I'm yelling, you stay the off my mouth. And he finally just was like, just kind of go. And that's when I snapped. I was like, and my manager grabs me, and I'm like, all right. So the worst part about this though, and please do yourself a favor after I tell you this, go watch the video on the internet, because I immediately walk into the dugout and kick the bucket of cups, and this cup goes flying off my foot, hits the back of the dugout, and then comes right back and hits me square in the forehead. And I just, like, in a moment where I'm so fired up, so angry, ready to fight the entire Yankee team, I kick this thing of cups and it just smokes me right in the head. And I'm like, you know what? That's about right. That's about right. So it was over.
Right. Well, there was another Sunday afternoon that was famous, May the 9th, 2010. You threw a perfect game. Now, Dallas, I've asked you all the questions about your beautiful grandmother and all that. Is there a story that hasn't been told a million times about that day, that when you think back, and you can tell us your grandmother's story, of course, but was there anything else that happened that day that you look back on almost 15 years later and go, I can't believe that happened?
Well, there were, and I've told you this, Timmy, and out of respect for the clean, fun-loving show that you guys have created here, I will save some of those details. What I will tell you is that there was a major chasm between my preparation on that day and what my normal preparation would have been like, and that was due in part to some of the it wasn't really fun that I had the night before. It was almost self-inflicted punishment. Mother's Day, not a great day. I chose to say, you know what, I think I'm going to wash Mother's Day away, and I'm going to start that tonight. So I woke up with a bit of a headache, I'll say, and that's what I'll leave it at. But when I got to the ballpark, our video guy was so ingrained in my process, my routine before the game. He would have the lineup card ready for me, because I would go in, grab the lineup card. I'm studying the lineup at my locker. I take the lineup with me and I tape it up in the shower while I'm taking my shower. And I would throw my bullpen, my pregame bullpen, I would throw my bullpen in the shower. And I just had this routine. And I got there with about an hour or so before game time. So I had no time to do anything. And my video guy is, I walk in and he's got the papers and he's going, where have you been? Where have you been? I had it already. You're not gonna. And I just it was seriously, it was one of those moments where you walk in and you're like this. You walk in, you just go, not now, not now, not now. And that's kind of how it went. That is exactly how it went. So that's one of the funnier things. And we joke about this today because I was so locked in on my day, routine, video, washing my cleats, polishing my glove, throwing the bullpen in the shower, all of this, the hot packs, everything was timed out to a T. And there was nothing about that day that was anywhere close to any other day that I had performed in the big leagues. And so that was why I always used to joke with Joe Stiglitz, a great writer who was on the beat at the time. And Stiggy asked, hey, well, how about the bullpen? How were things in the bullpen? And this is after the game. And I said, yeah, Stiggy, dude, I was 98 to 102 in the pin. The slider was 93 with depth. And then I got out there and it was 88. I don't know what the hell happened. What do you think, Stiggy? I was the same dude. I was very, very, very lucky. I mean, there was so much more happening that day than a baseball game. And I always say I was merely just a vehicle for the emotion and the romance that baseball can continue to bring, because my other teammates also have mothers and they also have families that sacrifice to get them there. And they also had mothers in the stands that day. So it wasn't just about me and my story. It was about my teammates and the fact that they were going to have to defend behind a guy who had just essentially cashed it in the night before and is out there going, yeah, whatever, Mother's Day, to hell with it. Here's a heater. Good luck. And when you look up at the end of it, a couple hours later, I was able to wrap my arms around my grandmother and share with her how much she meant to me. So.
And Dallas, tell us that story. You lost your mom. You were raised by your grandmother. Tell us the post-game scene when you look to the sky and then your grandmother comes over to hug you. Tell us how that happened.
Well, yeah, that's why, and I have always, I think a lot of people just hear on the surface, oh, Mother's Day, you threw the perfect game on Mother's Day. How cool is that, right? A holiday. And I think they inherently think, oh, your mom was in the stands or your mom must have been so proud. And I don't think what people maybe truly understand is, or if you don't know me, I was raised by my mom and my grandma, and I lost my mother my senior year in high school. So Mother's Day from that day on was a day that was eliminated from our calendar. And I've always talked about how unfair I felt that was for my grandmother, because this is a very proud woman, a woman who has been through far more than I could ever think about navigating in her life. And to come out on the other end the way that she has, for her to not be able to celebrate her motherhood because she had lost her only daughter just was heart-wrenching to me. And so on that day, it was it was the baseball gods giving us Mother's Day back is how I've kind of phrased it. And that's why that meant so much to me. But this is just the Spitfire she is. She's supposed to be sitting in the family section, and I'm coming off the mound, and I haven't. I mean, I think I hugged Derek Barton, not my catcher, who Landon Powell wears me out daily about. He's like, dude, you serious? You ran to the first baseman? And I was like, buddy, it's because I was ready to catch the ball and tag the bag too, like whatever needed to happen to get the final out. And I'm walking back and I'm looking up and I'm looking in the stands, and you can see me. I kind of point and I kind of do this because I'm telling it like, hey, I want my grandma. I know where she's at. And not until later do I find out, like, dude, she didn't watch the last inning from her seat. She came down and climbed up on top of the dugout to watch the game. And the ushers not only helped her get down there, but helped her get up there and let everybody else know, don't talk to her, don't touch her, don't say a word. Because if this happens, she will be climbing off that dugout. She will be coming down here on the field, and you need to be out of the way. And I didn't know about any of this until, later, till the stories are told. So I'm looking for her and she's not there. And I'm like, what the hell is going? Oh my God, she's right here on the field. So I'm like, how did you get down here? But all of that. I have a necklace that I wear that had a Celtic cross on it and a St. Christopher, the guardian of travel. And not that we're religious people. It's just a matter of like, this is kind of what I've worn to keep my grandfather and my mother as close to me as possible. I have a tattoo on my body that keeps them as close as they could possibly be. But this was something that in the physical world, my grandmother and I knew and shared. And I just took that necklace out and I kissed it and she kissed it and I just gave her a hug. And that was, there wasn't really any words I was going to be able to say to her at that moment. I just wanted her to feel what I was feeling at the moment, which was, we had made it. We're here. We had that feeling when I graduated high school, because that day was never supposed to come. We had that feeling when I got to college, junior college, and I got my AA degree, because that was never supposed to happen. Go to college? What? And now you get a scholarship and you get to pro ball. Someone's going to pay you money to play baseball. So we had several of those, like, I can't believe we're here kind of moments. But it was that moment where Mother's Day was given back to her that meant the absolute most.
I have to say, I am now embarrassed to say that he would be the perfect guest for April Fools, because he's made us laugh, but you also have made us cry now. Like, I'm getting emotional over here, Dallas. That was such a beautiful story, and I'm glad you could take back Mother's Day. And I think our listeners who might have had difficulties or losing a mother or a father or whatever it might be can take that as an opportunity to grow. I think that is so incredible. You mentioned your college years, and we want to get to the athletics of today and where they're playing, and because we're recording this shortly before the home opener for the Athletics playing in Sacramento. But you actually went to American River College. Is that right?
Beaver Tech, as we call it. American River College. Beaver Fever. Snatch it up. That's what we say. Yes, absolutely. Beaver Tech here, that's actually located in Carmichael. I was under the tutelage of head coach Kevin Higgins, who was very instrumental in my life. The assistant coach at the time, Doug Jumale, Kevin Forbes, Mike Torres was my pitching coach at the time. The next year it was Jason Dana, who was the head coach, Doug Jumale. I had incredible information bestowed upon me at one of the most pivotal times in my life. I learned the lesson of accountability at American River Junior College. I made the decision after being drafted out of high school in the 47th round. Somebody screwed up and made a mistake. And they said, you got to get out of Stockton. My scout, Jay Harris, said, you got to get out of Stockton, man. You got to get eyeballs on you from somewhere else. And this place, you're either going to be dead or in jail. And I knew that, and I had to get out. And so I moved an hour and a half away from my junior college, right? Like where I lived in Stockton, I was about 45 minutes away. Where I moved to Sacramento, a town called Winters, I was an hour and a half away. We had weights at 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I had to get up early enough to get there. Well, there would be times where I just wouldn't go home and I would just sleep in my car at the ballpark in the parking lot. And so I could be there in time for weights. Well, he would drive in and he would see me sleeping in the truck, but he wouldn't come get me. He wouldn't wake me up. And there were multiple times where I was late to the jump rope line and I got absolutely crushed, had to do the punishment running, which was called an excellence, which would absolutely bury you. And I got very familiar with that. But the message was, just being here is not good enough. You have to show up in every facet. And that doesn't mean sleeping in your car because you're an hour and a half away and you think you're doing yourself a favor. You got to wake up in your car and you got to be on the line before I am. You have failed yourself. You have failed your team. You have failed me. Go hit the track. And that was the greatest lesson of accountability that I could have ever received, because it was the lesson of, if you think you're doing enough, zoom out, take assessments, because you're probably not. There's probably something more you could be doing.
Right. And then you went to Texas Tech after that, right?
Now, Red Raiders.
Red Raiders. So I have one quick story. I worked at the Dallas Morning News in 1982 in January, and I covered a Texas Tech basketball game. I'll never forget. I'd been in town like a week, so I didn't even know where Lubbock was. I fly into Lubbock, and Joe Hornaday was the SID, and he came and picked me up at the airport and delivered me to the Texas Tech campus. I was just a dinky little 24-year-old sports writer who was just in town, and apparently he did that for everyone. That
Wow.
must have been the way Texas Tech worked, right?
That was a life-changing experience in itself. One, you get out there and there's people that are genuinely nice to you for no reason. And coming from my neighborhood, like that's called an ulterior motive. And I need to keep you at arm's distance at least. And so, like, why are you smiling at me? Why are you talking to me? Like, get away from me. And you just eventually you can't fight it. You start dropping y'alls on people, and you want to hug everybody when they walk in the room, even if you don't know them. And that's just because that's how it goes. I mean, the folks around the program supported me and helped me as a kid from California who had no idea which end was up. They knew I needed help, and they around every corner were a pillar of support for me. And I'm Coach Larry Hayes, the legend, could not have been more gracious in what he was offering me, the opportunities that he gave me. West Texas is an incredible community, incredible sports town, or sports community. I got to just go back recently and do a speaking engagement out at the West Texas Sports Banquet, which was an awesome experience. It really had a major impact on my time, or on my life, my time in West Texas at Texas Tech, my time even spent in AA at Midland, Texas. But West Texas means a whole lot to me,
Dallas, you grew up in Northern California, and you're a broadcaster for the Athletics, and a really good one at that. I thoroughly, jokes aside about, your wife, Meg, posting that, I think you've got great perspective, and you have a lot of fun on the broadcast, and that's great. And I love listening to you do those games. But for you, and I don't want to go into the weeds here, but I lived in Las Vegas for 5 years. My wife is born and raised in Las Vegas. And I couldn't be more excited for that community to get a baseball team. Now, clearly, obviously, that comes with the loss of a team for the Oakland area, but playing some games in Sacramento. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very interesting topic, a very interesting subject matter. I say intriguing, I think is probably maybe a better word, just because I think there's a lot of interest to see how things are going to continue to unfold, and that's understandable. From my perspective, we've kind of talked about the ties that I have to this area, the Sacramento community. I grew up playing baseball in this area. I went to school in this area. That's all been fantastic. And the reception that the announcement received from fans in this area was amazing. They are very excited, extremely excited, because baseball, big league baseball, has sort of been moved to a distance that may or may not have compromised their ability to show their fandom. Now big league baseball has sort of been moved to their backyard, kind of plopped down right on their lap, and they know it's going to be here for the next few years. And I think it would be really tough as a baseball fan in general to not be excited about big league baseball being dropped on your front doorstep. Mm-hmm. With that being said, that does mean that there is a incredible group of fans who are reeling and who are extremely emotional about what they will no longer have the opportunity to go do. And that's to bring their children and bring their families to a place where history and memories have been made over decades. And I think what I've always tried to do is maintain a level of perspective that allows me to see and feel the emotion from both sides, because ultimately my job is to convey what's happening on the field, convey the energy and the vibe that's occurring day in and day out within the clubhouse, and how that's all coming together, coming to a head on the field through performance. And there's great stories to tell. There's storylines that will continue to develop, and the shift from one place to another is certainly one of those. But the feeling of going to the ballpark is going to be different. It's going to be new. How you get to the ballpark is going to be different. How you get out of the ballpark is going to be different. All of these things are going to be a very new experience. But I think if you can compartmentalize the emotion that comes with a team leaving and the emotion that is definitely there with a team arriving for the first time, I think you will be better served to understand where each fan base is coming from and how they feel. Because all I really want is, and this is what I said at the last game of the season in Oakland, was I want the fans who are going there, who have the emotion on their hearts that they do, I wanted them to go through that last day in a way that they would be proud to reflect upon. I wanted them to be able to enjoy all of their commitment in one last day in a fashion that would allow them to be able to share with other people, where they were on that day and how they went about it on that day. And I think for the most part, the fans have been great in that way. There's always going to be vocal folks who say, look, this was what I believed in. This is what I bled for. And I think you would be in the wrong to try to take that away from those people,
right,
to try to tell those people that what they're feeling is wrong, because it's not. That's why they feel that way. And that's what made those fans there so damn good and so passionate. And now what I've already felt is there's been a transition period, I think, where folks have said, I was angry. I voiced my frustrations. I said what I had to say. And I've kind of found myself, just at a place now where I love the guys on the team and I want to support that. That's what I want to support. And I hope that baseball fans all across the game can find that place in their heart to realize that it's the guys on the field and it's the folks within that organization that make it go round. Those are the folks who bleed for each other, and they love and enjoy the support of fans who understand that.
As you said from the beginning, it's about the fans. That's what it's about. And I think you do a great job of explaining that, and that perspective is so important.
It's great, Dallas. So before we let you go, you know I love lists of all stupid kinds. So since you were our guest on the show, I presented the all U.S. cities team in the major leagues with your first name, the name of a city. So I'm just going to quickly read through. Austin Wells is the catcher. Orlando Cepeda at first, Houston Jimenez at second, Alan Craig at third, Brandon Crawford's the shortstop, Tyler O'Neill is one outfielder, Gary Sheffield, Jackson Merrill, and our two pitchers are Madison Bumgarner and Dallas Braden. What do you think of that list? How much time did I waste on that?
A significant amount figuring out how you're going to weave my name into that group of people. Because the simple fact that I'm on the mound with a guy like Madison Bumgarner, I got to ask him if I'm allowed to be on his mound. But that is an incredible list, and I'm happy to be part of it. What I'm sad to hear is that Houston Street did not make the list, because I was drafted with Houston Street, played in the big leagues with Houston Street, teammates with that fella. But I am no one to argue with your list, my friend.
All right, that was great. Dallas, we had the best time ever. Thank you for teaching us something. Thank you for making us cry, but mostly thank you for making us laugh today.
Boys, I couldn't have been more excited to come on with you guys. You know how much I love you. You know how much respect I have for you guys. And I want to let you know you guys are absolutely crushing with this show. Please keep it going, because this is absolutely the fun stuff that we love to hear. We love to talk about. We got a lot of people who can take themselves seriously doing this. You two are not one of those people, and I thoroughly enjoy that. The fans do as well. So thank you.
I was glad he didn't end that with April Fools, because that was a very sweet thing he said.
Yes.
April Fools, you guys stink!
Guess my mic cut out.
Right. Dallas Braden, thank you so much.
We'll see you, boys.
All right, we'll see you. Good luck with everything. Thanks again.
So we just wrapped up Dallas Braden, but after the interview, so after that moment you just saw, he said, wait, hold on. And he threw his headphones down, threw his microphone down, and left the screen. And we're thinking,
where's he go? What's he going to bring back? A cowboy hat or whatever?
And he left us with a really special surprise to wrap up the episode. Here it is.
Hey,
Hi.
It's Peggy. How are you?
It is. I'm great. How you doing?
I am great. This is my son, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Peggy. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And
Been a long time.
It's been a long time. And my son, Jeff, his favorite person in the whole world was my mother, his grandmother, who we called Nana. So we have great affection for grandmothers here, and to see you with your grandson like this, it's just priceless. So good.
Oh, so good to see you.
Well, it's so good to be here, and your grandson made us laugh out loud about 20 times today. What a surprise, huh?
Yeah, what a surprise.
He does that every day with you. And now we learned when you walked onto the dugout that day for the perfect game that he gets his irreverence from you. Like, I'm going down there. I'm going to go stand on that dugout and no one's going to stop me. He's just like you.
Yeah, I take credit for that.
Right.
Oh, we love it. That is so good.
Well, it's so
Oh.
good to see you. Thanks for
Yes.
hopping on with us. This is the
You-
best part of the interview.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
The best way to end a father-son podcast was with that moment.
Right. Again, Jeff, we do a relationship show here. The reason we do this is it's fathers and sons. And here we had a son and a grandmother sharing a few minutes together like that. It was just priceless.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, thank you for being a part of our family.